my great pleasure and honor to be here with Rav Yehuda Gilad, who was born in Brazil but was raised and has lived his whole life in Eretz Israel, in the state of Israel, and has served in the Knesset, is the head of Kibbutz Lavi.
Rav of Kibbutz Lavi.
Rav Kibbutz Lavi is the founding Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshivat Ma'ale Gilboa, is involved in so many important halachic and national issues, and is just a teacher to so many out in the field. So it's a great honor to have this time to talk.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about Yeshivat Ma'ale Gilboa, for those who don't know about it?
Okay, Yeshivat Ma'ale Gilboa is a yeshiva, is a modern Orthodox yeshiva, but in a way, people see us as in the cutting edge of the modern Orthodox, because we insist to be modern and to be open-minded at the same time, to understand that there is no contradiction between being totally committed to halakha, to Torah and Yirat Shamayim, fearing of God, and being Oved Hashem, and at the same time to be open and asking questions and be open to culture, and even more important, to emphasize the moral issues in the Torah, the moral sensitivity to every human being, to understand that every human being was created in the image of God. All of the issues take part in the limud of the yeshiva. So basically the yeshiva is for Israelis that combine full army service, unlike the Hesder yeshivot, full army service together with learning Torah in a very serious level of limud Torah. And at the same time we have American program for about between 10 and 20 people that can integrate with the Israelis, as they have high skills in Ivrit, and they look for this kind of open-minded approach. This is just in 2 sentences.
Beautiful. So just picking up briefly on this idea of modern Orthodox. You know, Rav Kook has this idea that of expanding the palace of Torah, that when new ideas emerge, that Torah can expand to include new ideas. So how do you think we should think about new ideologies that emerge and how they can become a part of Torah? Democracy emerges, or feminism, or new ideas of social justice or modern philosophy, right? One religious approach is reject them. If they're not in the earlier sources, they're no valid. Some, they just broadly accept it. Whatever the zeitgeist is, they just accept. So what is the chidush? What is the insight on how we engage with new ideas?
I think it's very good that you quoted Rav Kook, because he actually said that when you come to the new ideas, always we have to try to find the positive point that you can find in this idea, and usually you will find the source for it in the Torah. Just for example, take the feminism. Yeah. I always say that the most feminist declaration in the maybe in all the culture of the world is in Perek Aleph of Bereshit. Vayivra Elohim et Adam etzalmo. God created man in His image. B'tzelem Elohim bara oto. In the image of God, He created him. Zachar u'nekava bara otam. So it means that male and female, the ish and isha, man and woman, both of them were created in image of God. It's a revolutionary declaration to say that Tzelem Elohim, the main things that characterize what is a human being about, men and women are equal. Perek Bet is a different story, but in Perek Aleph they say this is ideal. The world at that time wasn't mature enough to accept this, and therefore the Torah make any sort of concessions. But now, when the feminism came to the world, we have to embrace it according to the rules of halakha. Obviously, there are some points that there is a contradiction between the demands of feminism and halakha, and then we have to try to find solutions. Sometimes we can agree, sometimes we disagree. But basically, the idea is that 50% of the human population of the world are equal. This is great. This is written in the Perek Aleph in Bereshit. Thousands of years ago.
Beautiful. You know, and I think on this front, we don't have to be afraid of progress, which is to say, normally religiously we talk about Yeridat Dorot, that we're getting worse, further from God, further from Sinai, further. But actually, there's also, or Mashiach, or it doesn't have to be understood in those terms, but we're moving towards a deeper understanding where some of the earlier sources of Torah can be actualized, right, with Medinat Yisrael and other ideas. So I think, going back to what you said, that we couldn't have feminism in an earlier state, even though it's there in the beginning of Genesis.
Progress, in some issues we can find that our generation is much higher, and that let's say about how to deal with minorities, how to build the handicapped people, how to build the inclusion, the idea of inclusion. when you go back to the Torah, you can find the
Right.
sources to it in the Torah itself.
Yeah.
But in the ancient times, it wasn't the right time to apply just
Right.
the approach to Gentiles.
Yeah.
Because we suffered from the goyim all over the generations. So
Right.
obviously
Yeah.
some of the halachot were influenced by it. But now when you are
Yeah.
back in power, we have Medinat Israel, we have after the emancipation, we have the human rights to every. Now you can
Yeah.
find to the sources, the treasures that we have in the Torah, and to find that basically the fundamentals of democracy, you can find them in the Torah itself.
Right. You know, some try to reject Yahadut because of earlier sources that seem barbaric. But the Rambam was so clear that revolution takes time. Meaning there's ideas that were given in Torah Shebechtav, in the original Torah, that are not ideal later. Everyone knows slavery is wrong, but it would have been way too radical to cancel slavery then. So things come in time, but
the Torah about slavery,
Yeah.
what the Torah did,
Yes.
they gave us a
Yes.
hint that this is the direction that we have to
Right.
develop. The Torah said that you have to Eved Yotzeh B'Shen V'Ayin. You cannot hit and take teeth or eye from your slave, from your Eved slave, because otherwise he will go free. This was a revolution in the ancient time.
Kana
Even here
Eved
in
Kavod
America,
Rav, right?
כן, בדיוק, קנה אדון לעצמו. So the Torah teaches us something that even 200 years ago in this country, the States, someone that ran away, escaped from his owner, he will sentenced to death. But the Torah said, לא תסגיר עבד אל אדוניו, עמך ישב בקרבך וטוב לו. Don't give the עבד back to his own. You have to absorb him. You have to help him. The עבד that ran away, escaped from his owner.
Right.
This is a revolutionary.
Yeah.
Even in our days, even in our place, unfortunately, in the world, in Africa and Asia, that we have like slavery, the way that they deal with workers, children workers in China, in other places in the world. And the Torah tells us there are rights to the workers that you have to keep them, you have to respect them.
My understanding is that in the Code of Hammurabi, just before, it's a monetary crime if you kill them. It's not a capital crime, like Torah, the Chidush of Torah.
Yeah.
Or the notion of Shabbat, that a worker gets a day off.
Yeah.
Labor law in America is 100 years old. You get a day off. So looking for. By the way, I think going back to the amount of restraint. You talked about how Jews were second-class citizens under Gentile regimes, and the amount of restraint in the Tshuvot still. You look at the Haggadah. It's very troubling. God should pour out wrath upon the nations. But if that's the only thing that made it into the Haggadah after pogroms and crusades, it's a lot of restraint.
Yeah, sure.
So let's look at the state today.
After the Holocaust?
After the Holocaust. I mean,
Sure.
so looking at the state today, there's an emerging issue around, as you know better than I, of selling land to Gentiles in Israel. What's your perspective on this? Maybe you can frame what's the machloket, what's the argument today?
What's happening today is, in some cases, people ask the Rabbanim about the issue, if can I sell my home to a non-Jewish person, because halachically, there is halacha, לא תחונם, and Chazal told us, לא תחונם, לא תיתן להם חניה בקרקע. You're not allowed to give them piece of land in Eretz Israel to Gentiles. But when you look carefully to the halacha, you can see that most of the poskim says that it just relates to Ovdei Avodah Zarah, to idol worshippers, and not to people that are goyim there in our time. Just there is a famous Meir that says that all the goyim, they gedurim b'derchei hadatot, that they have any sort of religions and they have moral standards in their life. All these sanctions against them are not relevant anymore. But even if you take, so if you go in this approach, obviously it's not relevant in our days. But even let's say that we'll take the opinion of the poskim that Christians are of the Avodah Zarah, and some of the poskim say they are not. But even according to this, you know that halachically mipnei darkei shalom, this is not the right way to think. If we, as a democratic state, Jewish and democratic state, want to be part of the world, of the enlightened world, you cannot allow such a thing. And Rav Chaim David Halevi, that he was the chief rabbi of Tel Aviv, he wrote it a very, very meforash, very clear cut that this is not relevant in our days anymore, because it can be such a chilul Hashem that says that I cannot. And therefore, I believe when a bunch of rabbanim, a very big list of rabbanim wrote that it is asur halachically, I I wrote a piece that it was in the first front of Yediot Achronot, the most popular newspaper a few years ago. Ani mitbayesh. I feel ashamed. This is one of the reasons I feel ashamed to be a rabbi. If this is a psak halacha of those rabbanim that ignore most of the poskim that said that it's not relevant in our days. It's such a chilul Hashem, and therefore I said, how can you do such a psak halacha that all over the world we can be ashamed of our Yehadut? And you have Mekorot that speaks about it. Rav Herzog wrote about it. Rav Chaim David Halevi, Rav Amital wrote about it. So there are many great rabbanim sources that say that this is not a problem nowadays. We have to find a solution that will be Kiddush Hashem and not Chas v'Shalom Haifel.
Right. Wow. So just tangentially, your father-in-law, Rav Amital, what was his view on the relationship between values and halakha? I know that you could talk about that for hours, right? But these meta ethics, these meta halachic principles, like you said, okay, there's this halachic approach, but you can also just say mipnei darchei shalom. Right. So what was he saying? And maybe it's the same view you hold today, I'm not sure, of that relationship.
Yeah. Basically, one of the main slogans of Rav Amital, he says, Lo hakol halacha. Not everything is halacha. Retzon Hashem, the will of Hashem, the Torah is much wider than halacha. There is Kedoshim Tiyu, there is Vasita Yashar Vatov, there is the general values of the Torah that they are part of the Torah, part of Retzon Hashem, of the will of Hashem. And we cannot be just committed to the written letter in the Shulchan Aruch, because Retzon Hashem is much wider than that. And we have to listen to Retzon Hashem through the Torah, and through the ideas of the Torah, and Machshava and values is part of the Torah. Not any, I have to be very clear, not any idea that the enlightened world bring to the table. I will say this is part of Yahadut. I have to check it and to investigate it in a very careful way, and to be honest with my mitzvah, my conscience, that I'm doing right halacha, and being posek halacha according to the mekorot, but according to the perspective of our days. The Chazon Ish said, Rav Amital quoted the Chazon Ish that said the main issue of being posek halacha, the part issue of being posek halacha is to understand the reality, not to understand the books. The book is quite easy to understand what is the written world, but to find a way how to understand what is the reality with all the tensions, with all the delicate nuance, and then to fit the halacha to the right reality. And unfortunately, many poskim just take the books as is and put it in a very and try to enforce it in the reality, and this is a mistake, unfortunately.
So, are you saying more that halakha can apply to everything, but the values have to be a part of it? Or are you saying that some issues are not about halakha, just about values?
I'll say gam v'gam. I'll say some of the values are part of halakha, definitely. Some issues are me'ever halakha, and I think to be a mensch, it's not halakha, but it's first of all derech eretz kadma laTorah. It's just to be a mensch, So there are things that we don't have to. There is a very interesting letter of Rav Kook that said that the Torah definitely intentionally wanted the part of Retzon Hashem will be lifnei Mishpat Hadin, not part of the din. Will be, how do you say lifnei Mishpat Hadin in English?
Above the letter of the law.
Above the letter of the law. In order that something that you will do just because of your free choice, not because it's written in the Torah. So some things you have to be free. You have to have a space for those kind of things as well. Right.
Okay, wonderful. So in addition to selling land, do you have a similar view on land for peace? In the sense of that, one argument is that if the land is kadosh, there's no way you can make an agreement to give away parts of land.
Okay, here we have to distinguish between the theoretical approach and the practical approach. Right. Theoretically, I believe, and it's a long shiur to give about it, that the question of land for peace, it's not halachic questions. It's a question of measuring the reality. If
you'll save lives.
If you'll save life, I don't believe there is any posek in the world that if they will be sure about it, that it will save lives, it will say that it is forbidden to give land for peace. The issue is that they are so sure about it that it will not bring peace, and therefore they say, as they quote many mekorot that say it is forbidden halachically, whatever. But when you look carefully what they wrote themselves, you can see that all of them will agree that if it's quite clear that it will save lives, it is okay. But the problem is, they say it is a safek. But when it is a safek, it's just a doubt. So I'll go to the opinions that say that it is forbidden. And therefore, I think it's like, it's a question of, theoretically, if there is a chance to have a real peace and to save lives, I think we have to support any kind. But unfortunately, the reality today, I think, it's that no one really believes that there is a way that you can give up a land and having peace instead. And therefore, unfortunately, this is the situation right now, that we cannot support any sort of these peace initiatives that are going on in the streets in the world, because they are not really connected to the metziut, to the reality now, unfortunately.
Right. Okay. All right. Shifting gears to talk about Giur, about conversion in Israel. What is happening on a grassroots level for Giur that is not being accepted by the state, but that you hope ultimately will be? You're showing leadership on a number of fronts, and maybe you can expose us to that. Yeah.
I would like to say something in general, in the wide picture. Basically, one of the great miracles that happened to the Jewish state, to Israel, about 25 years ago, was the Russian Aliyah. It was millions of people that came in a very surprising. No one actually believes that it can happen. That the Masach HaBarzel, the Iron Curtain, will break, and people will come to Israel. And this was a boost of many. It was the most successful Aliyah that we had ever, and it was very, very good, positive thing. But together with this million Olim, about 200,000 or 300,000 of them are not Jewish halachically, because they are mixed marriage, because they couldn't have Yahadut in the communist world, etc. And they are in Israel. They integrated within Israeli society. They speak Hebrew. They go to the army. They adopted the Jewish and the Israeli culture as a part of us.
Serving the army.
Jews. So serving the army. What is more than that? But they're not Jewish halachically. And here came, this was a challenge to the religious world, to the chief rabbinate, to make a way that conversion will be friendly, will be open, will to open the gates to those Jews that are coming back. They are not just Jews, they are Israel, they're coming from, they suffered of being Jews when they were in Russia, and now when they're coming here, we tell them that you are not Jewish. And therefore, if we had a chief rabbinate that it should be, it was the job of the chief rabbinate to open the gates and to offer a giur, that it will be halachic giur, that I think thousands of them and 10,000 of them would have come. Obviously, we want to. We don't want to enforce anyone to go to giur. It should be with milah, with tefillah, with a quite serious level of kabbalat mitzvot, but in a way that to understand that it is a tahlich, a process, not one day to tomorrow they will become totally dati, but they will adapt kashrut, will adapt shmirat Shabbat in some level, and then you adopt them within the religious communities, and then there is a chance that they will become observants in such a level. But unfortunately, the chief rabbinate takes the most machmir, the most stringent approach, and therefore many of them, most of them, just despaired, and they say, okay, why should I do it? I'm living in Israel, and I'm an Israeli without being Jewish. But the problem is that one of them, the most important achievement of the Jewish state, is this is the only place all over the world there is no assimilation, because I don't have to tell you. Here you told me that it's about 70% the mixed marriage here in the States. All over the Jewish world, in the diaspora, it's similar. It's the only place all over the world that Jews that are secular Jews can be almost sure that their grandchildren still will be Jews are in Israel, because Jews are not married Druze or Arab, although they are living in Israel, 30% are not Jewish, but basically it's very rare.
Yeah.
But now with this Aliyah, obviously all those people they are married with Israelis, so it means that there are assimilation within the Jewish state, because we are doing hachmarot in Giur, we are causing it balut, mixed marriage, assimilation within the state of Israel. And this was my opinion, and many other rabbanim as well, that we came to the chief rabbinate, you have to change your approach. And we tried for years to do it, and nothing happened because of political issues, because the government is dependent on the Haredi, and they couldn't change things. And we, a group of rabbanim, we came to the conclusion there is no any other way to do it through the system, so we're doing it by ourselves. under the umbrella, under the leadership of Rav Nachum Rabinovich, one of the greatest poskai halacha nowadays, in his late 80s, is באמת a great posek halacha in the Tzionut Hadatit. We established this organization that we call it Giyur Kahalacha. This is a Giyur that's much more friendly. It is halachic Giyur, but we understand that this is a process, and we are much more promoting and encouraging people to do it. Mainly, we concentrate with Giyur Ktinim, with infants, with children, because halachically it's much easier, and they will determine the future of the state of Israel, because mainly the girls, because because as we know, Yahadut is dependent on the mother, and therefore, if we will concentrate in children and mainly in girls, then, and most of them will come through the system, so it means that in in the next generation, the problem will disappear. So we started this initiative. We're just in the beginning. We can say that until today, about a year that we exist, it is not more than 300 people that came. But this is quite a beginning, and we have and we say the gerim, the corners that are coming. This giyur is halachically 100% giyur, but the state of Israel, unfortunately, do not recognize this giyur yet. We believe that when we come to thousands, the numbers of thousands, then we have to make any sort of public struggle in order to change the laws, that the state will recognize it. But we offer them that our Rabbanim will marry them Kedat Moshe V'Yisrael, will commit the Chatonah, the wedding Kedat Moshe V'Yisrael. And so they are Jewish, they are halachically Jewish. Unfortunately, the state of Israel, the Jewish state of Israel, do not recognize them as the Jews, but I believe that will change it in time.
By the way, I just saw in the Israeli news today that 1 out of 6 Soviet Israelis has left. Really? 1 out of 6 was the new stat. Okay, so my last question, and just picking up on that then, is the chief rabbinate as a barrier. Do you believe that the system that is in place with new leadership can be fixed? People like Rav Stav who want to get in? Or do you think we have to decentralize and get rid of the whole chief rabbinate?
I must tell you, this is a very, very difficult question, very problematic issue. I'm not sure that I have a clear-cut answer because I have doubts about it. I'm sure that if Rav Stav was chief rabbinate, it was a chance, maybe the last chance, to try to cure this establishment, to make it something to be relevant to the Israelis. Today, it's not relevant to most Israelis. The Haredi ignore them, the Chiloni ignore them, the Tzionut Hadatit, in a way, relate to them, and they're so irrelevant, unfortunately. I'm not sure that there is a future to this establishment, but maybe will be surprises. We have to be very careful because there is a sugya b'Gemara that we are not allowed to lo listor inush beknista ad debani asur laros. You cannot destroy a bet knesset, a shul, until you have the new one, because you're in between. You can be without both of them. You have to first of all to build the new one, and just afterwards to. So I don't want just to destroy something before I know what will be afterwards. Because for me, the Jewishness of the state of Israel is crucial. These two elements, being democratic and Jewish, are very important. Both of them. Unfortunately, there are people in both. I think vast majority of Israelis want Israel to be both Jewish and democratic. In both sides, the extreme sides, there are people that say, for me, just important that it will be Jewish. For me, just important the extreme Chiloni just being democratic. But most of them. And we have to do everything to know that these two elements will not contradict each other, and to do it in a very wise way. Bezat Hashem.
In psychoanalysis, we have the same idea that you can't strip someone's mental foundation until you've given them a new one. It's a korban. So really, if you're considering a yeshiva to study in Israel, you have to check out Yeshivat Ma'ale Gilboa. I couldn't recommend it highly enough. A remarkable institution. I only visited once, but it's at the cutting edge of Torah scholarship, of challenging students to think, but also of a loving, caring, thoughtful environment. Check out Rav Yehuda Gilad's writings and his work. And we're producing three podcasts here while he's in town. 3 different lectures you can check out as well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.